Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. The leading candidate for governor says it's time to get rid of Indiana's income tax. Suzanne Crouch's comments come as state lawmakers investigate doing just that. She talked to our government reporter, Garrett Berquist.
Let's bring in gubernatorial candidate Suzanne Crouch. Suzanne, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Garrett. It's good to be with you.
So you've called for eliminating Indiana's income tax, and this comes right as state lawmakers are beginning to look into doing just that. How would you replace the lost revenue?
Do you know what is most important to me is the what and the why. The how we will figure out. And certainly I am in tune with what the Indiana General Assembly is undertaking, being a former state rep and president of the Senate. But the what and the why is because I travel the state. You know, I've been to all 92 counties many times over, and I meet with Hoosiers, everyday Hoosiers, hardworking Hoosiers, in their homes, at their places of business, at groundbreakings, at ribbon cuttings. And what I hear from Hoosiers is that they are being crushed by the high inflation and the cost of living and the Bidenomics, and they need help. They're struggling to make ends meet with rising gas prices and rising grocery prices, and everywhere they look, everything is going up. And so I am proposing that as governor, my priority will be to eliminate Indiana's income tax. It's time to put money back into Hoosiers' pockets. And I trust that Hoosiers know how to spend their money better than government knows how to spend it. And when we put money back into their pockets, they're going to be ending up supporting the economy, and that in turn will grow revenues and help us support small businesses and attract other businesses here to Indiana. And actually, it'll be a boost to our economy. We can continue as we're doing, and we're doing well, trust me. But if we want to not just compete, if we want to lead as a state, we need to be giving more money back to Hoosiers and make Indiana more competitive with other states.
During the hearings on the tax code earlier in the week, some of the people who testified brought up that the states that don't have income taxes, in a lot of cases, for example, Texas gets a lot of revenue from oil and gas reserves, and Florida, of course, gets a lot of tourism money, and those are options that Indiana doesn't necessarily have. So how would Indiana be able to work with that?
How is Indiana different from those states? Indiana's full of hardworking Hoosiers, and when we give more money back to Hoosiers, they're going to spend their money wisely, and they're going to put it into the economy. And what we will do by eliminating the income tax is not only be giving Hoosiers back more money, but we'll be able to grow small businesses here in Indiana. We'll be able to attract other businesses to Indiana, because the states that are ahead of us are the ones that have no income tax or no sales tax. And so we have to be competitive. And so I trust that Hoosiers are the ones that are going to be making the difference. And the people that are, a lot of times, the people that are the biggest critics and the ones that are screaming bloody murder that we can't do this are the ones that are interested in the status quo. They're interested in Indiana staying as it is. I'm interested in Indiana boldly moving forward and getting money back to Hoosiers, but leading other states, not just competing with them, but leading them.
Is there a risk here, though, that if we eliminate the income tax, we end up relying more heavily on sales tax, which disproportionately impacts lower income Hoosiers?
Well, what we're going to do with my the tax plan is we're not only going to eliminate Indiana's income tax, but we're going to look at establishing a commission similar to the Kernan Shepherd Commission. And that commission, if you remember back in the early 2000s, looked at reforming local government to save money and to have it be more efficient. We're going to do that at the state level. And we're going to look at state government and how we can streamline and reduce the size of government, how we can limit the growth of government, and then how we will find efficiencies within government and in turn grow the economy. And so I am not worried as much about the how, I'm more worried about the why and the who and the what.
Changing gears a little bit, you've called for establishing a universal pre-K program in Indiana. How would that look?
Do you know, it's interesting. I'm a big proponent of early childhood education, and when I became a state representative, My daughter was way beyond that age of having to deal with child care or early childhood education, and so that issue wasn't topmost of mind. But business leaders from my hometown of Evansville are the ones that approached me, and they were very heavily invested in early childhood education. And they educated me on the importance of early childhood education in terms of preparing and getting our workforce today prepared, but then preparing our workforce for tomorrow. And they made a believer out of me, and I actually co-authored the first bill that actually established Indiana's early childhood education pilot program. We need to move beyond a pilot, and we need to work towards getting every child an opportunity to be able to learn so that by third grade they can read, and then they can be successful later in life. And so what I would look as we move forward is to be partnering more with our private sector, be looking at the private sector to be able to come alongside what we want to do in state government and work together to be able to do those kinds of programs that look at moving Indiana forward and preparing our workforce for tomorrow.
So in your proposal, would the pre-K programs be run more through employers, private schools, as opposed to public schools? How would that look?
It'd be all the above. I think we would look at all the above.
Speaking of pre-K, should Indiana consider lowering the age at which children must attend school from 7 to 6 or 5?
I would not be in favor of mandatory attendance. We don't have mandatory kindergarten. I believe parents should be able to make those decisions for their children, but I certainly think we need to look at how we can get more younger children into school earlier, and that is what early childhood education is all about, being able to prepare our children for lives of success. Because if you can't read by the third grade, you're going to struggle through school and you're going to struggle through life. And so getting our children prepared for that is an important part of creating a cradle-to-career education system.
All right, coming up, our coverage of the 2023 election continues with another candidate running for mayor. Welcome back. Even amid all of the 2024 talk, we have another election coming up this November. We're talking to the candidates who want to be the mayor of your town. Our government reporter Garrett Bergquist recently sat down with Jim Kaufman. Kaufman is the Democratic candidate for the mayor of Beech Grove.
Let's bring in Jim Kaufman. Jim, thanks for dropping by today.
Thank you, Garrett.
Why are you running for mayor of Beech Grove?
So currently I'm running for mayor for the city of Beech Grove. I own a small business in Beech Grove. I became active in the community about 12 years ago. My family purchased X9 Shoe Store on Main Street. Fast forward to 2023, we're celebrating our 100th year anniversary in business. Having a small business, I became active in the community. I started volunteering with the chamber, other organizations. We started a Main Street organization called Next Stop Beech Grove. I became active that way. Outside of that, I decided that there's other ways that I could serve our community. I ran for clerk treasurer and took office in 2020. So I currently serve as the elected clerk treasurer for the city of Beech Grove. There are a lot of projects and things down the pipe that I want to see come to fruition. Projects in the city, there's a lot of positive changes that have happened over the last several years. I want to use that ability as mayor to affect change in the community. And I think with my experience as a small business owner, a volunteer, and the current elected clerk treasurer, I'm excited for its future. And I want to do everything that I can as mayor. I built a wonderful team around me that will help serve the city for the next 4 years.
You've made public safety a fairly significant part of your platform as well. What do you believe is Beech Grove's biggest public safety challenge, and how do you plan to address it?
Yes, public safety is a big concern for the city of Beech Grove. We have invested heavily in our public safety department over the last 3 years. We built a new police station. We're in the process of building a state-of-the-art training facility. In order to fight crime, we have to provide the best equipment, the best services, the best facilities for our employees. We have to provide competitive pay. Over the last 3 years, as clerk treasurer, we've worked on budgets that are focused on competitive pay to get the best qualified candidates to come to the city of Beech Grove to be hired as police officers. We are fully staffed as a police department. So focusing on public safety, that will help fight crime and keep crime out. We are completely surrounded by the city of Indianapolis, so we've got to hold our own. I think we're doing well as a department. Our police station and our police department is second to none, and we've got to continue to fund them and continue to provide whatever they need to fight crime each and every day.
Beech Grove police say shootings at bars are a growing problem. We just had a double shooting at a bar at the beginning of August. How do you plan to tackle that problem specifically?
So currently, I won't speak a whole lot to that specific thing since I'm not the mayor right now. The mayor would be happy to talk about that. But when those things happen, I think as a small business owner, we've got to start with the place of freedom. I don't want to hinder innovation for small business owners. However, that being said, as mayor, the number one task is to protect the citizens of Beech Grove. So if incidents like that happen, we've got to come together with the business owners, the police department to figure out what we can do to prevent that from happening, come up with recommendations, and work with those business owners and the police department to figure out what we can do to make sure that doesn't happen. Because at the end of the day, we've got to protect our citizens and we've got to protect the people that come to the city each and every day. And by having everybody come to the table for an open line of communication, I think that's where some of that change might start.
How do you plan to stabilize home ownership in Beech Grove?
I think the rental levels will go down over the next few years. We have invested millions of dollars in trails, services, our police station, EMS, our senior citizen center, our community center, our parks. All of those are second to none, and I think it's drawing people in. Our Main Street is now a destination. We've seen, like I said, more people coming to the city of Beech Grove to move and to buy homes there. By improving that quality of life, and just a small thing as having the best DPW in the world, having great trash pickup, all of those services are going to encourage people to come to the city of Beech Grove just because they get more for their buck there, and they get those services that aren't offered out other places.
Beech Grove is home to Amtrak's primary maintenance facility. How do you not only maintain that relationship, but expand it for the next generation of workers?
So they are one of the top employers for the city of Beech Grove, absolutely. Beech Grove is a railroad town, and that's where it started back in 1906. We've got to continue to have that open line of communication. There's some property back there that will hopefully be developed. The city is 100% landlocked, and there's not a whole lot of place for development. There's about 70 acres of CSX property back there that is currently being cleaned up and will one day hopefully develop into a manufacturing facility, distribution facility. Working with the Amtrak and having that tie into the railroad, I think will be huge for the city of Beech Grove, and that's going to bring in a lot more revenue. But working with business owners like that, having Main Street a destination, encouraging Amtrak to keep that facility staffed. We've met with them several times over the last few years just to have an open line of communication. So if there's changes that happen over there, we already have that line of communication open, and we'd be happy to hear any suggestions, concerns, or questions that they might have in the next few years.
What makes you the best person in this race for the job?
Being active in the community. I love the city of Beech Grove. I love everything about it. I was born and raised here. I own a small business here. I volunteer. Being the current elected clerk treasurer, I've had a front row seat to the inner workings of local government. I understand finance. I understand what's coming down the pipe. I understand the projects that are happening. I want to see all those projects come to fruition. There's more to be done. We've got to improve the walkability in our city. We've got to improve the sidewalks. We've got to improve safety. We've got to continue to fund those projects. I built a team of people around me for the mayor, for Coughlin for Mayor team, that includes people with expertise in social work, medical field, engineering, urban development, government, small business, and the arts. Together, we have a unified vision for the future of Beech Grove, and I've never been more excited to see that. We are a public safety city that is primed for redevelopment.
Coming up, Indiana's best political team analyzes the first Republican primary debate and more. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Democrat Laura Beck and Republican Mario Mastrolamani. Good to see you both. Let's begin with Wednesday's debate. Mario, you were at the debate. We saw more fights between Mike Pence and Vivek Ramaswamy than anyone else. Does Pence's performance break him out from the field, in your opinion?
I don't think so. From the audience that was at the debate, there were a lot of boos for Mike Pence, right, wrong, or indifferent. I think the two people or three people that came out of the debate looking really well was Ron DeSantis. We were expecting him to get attacked from everyone. He didn't. Vivek Ramaswamy was actually the one that got attacked, but that allowed him also an opportunity to speak longer. And so by able to express his views, and I think Nikki Haley shocked a lot of people. I think people were not expecting her to do well. And I got a lot of comments from people in the audience saying, we were shocked and surprised at how well Nikki Haley seemed like the adult in the room and talked about policy along with Ron DeSantis. And they were a little surprised at how well she performed.
Yeah, I would agree with those three. Laura, circling back to Pence, though, you're the communications expert here. Did he maybe set himself up as kind of the adult in the room, or was maybe he a little bit too combative?
I think he was probably too combative. I think the Adult in the Room award definitely goes to Nikki Haley, and deservedly so for her performance in the debate. I think, Mike Pence's biggest issue here is that he is good at he was probably good at getting a few practice zingers in, right? Everybody's got their one-liners that they're going to use for applause. But he's a known commodity. And the challenge with being a known commodity in front of a MAGA crowd like that, and also in front of a crowded primary, is he's just not breaking through. And so you really have to wonder, what is he running for? Because he's not really running for the number 2 spot, because no one would pick him to be number 2, and I don't think he wants to be. I mean, part of me thinks this is to sell his book and to also try and position him for something else, because he's also not popular in Indiana. So I think for him, I think he's hit the end of the road and doesn't really want to admit it yet, because the Republican donor class, even the mega donor class like Rupert Murdoch, I mean, they're trying to recruit Glenn Youngkin from Virginia to get into the race. So he's not even really an option for some of these folks. So I don't see this ending well for him at this point in time.
And a surprising moment, guys, was when Pence briefly raised his hand when moderators asked the candidates if they would support Donald Trump if he wins the nomination. I don't have to tell you, but, we were, talked about for a while that he had said that if Trump was convicted, that he wouldn't do that. So does that kind of undercut his argument, Laura?
I think he's going to do and say anything he possibly can to get elected. So this does not surprise me at all. And I think, again, that's one of the reasons why he does not resonate, because he sort of just puts his finger out to see which way the wind blows, and he goes with that.
Mario, were you surprised by that?
I think that this is Pence's opportunity, from what I'm hearing from other people, to show not just the Republican base, but the country, that what he did on January 6th was the right thing to do. And I think that everyone understands that and believes that it was. But even on stage, when he was asked that question, or when they asked DeSantis and others that question, he wanted them to answer that what he did by certifying that election, that was constitutional, and that was the appropriate response and action for him to do. And I think that might be a lot of why he's running, is to make sure that history remembers him as being somebody that stood up for the Constitution and stood up for, amongst immense pressure, for what was the right decision. And I believe that's really why he's running. He's pulling at what, in this last Iowa poll, straw poll, 2.7%. He's not getting any traction. I don't think that he's going to get any bump from going after Vivek. I think actually Vivek's actually going to get a bigger bump from that, anything else. And so I think that he is trying to place himself in history as somebody that was almost like, stood against immense pressure and made sure that the country still followed and did what our Constitution meant.
Guys, I have a minute left. I want to get your thoughts quickly, and we could go all half an hour long on that debate, on your thoughts on the income tax situation here in the state. I have 30 seconds, so quickly, please, Laura.
I think, especially with Suzanne Crouch and the lieutenant governor's plan, I mean, it just doesn't have there are no details with it. And I think this is more about her place in the crowded gubernatorial field. She has not had much attention. She's not raising money. She's got some grassroots support. So I think she's trying to break away and break free.
Mario?
And that really, to me, was a wasted interview, because she could have really laid out some specifics.
So the General Assembly is actually looking into this, getting rid of the income tax. Under Republican leadership since 2004, we have been able to balance the budget. We've had immense surpluses, and I think that this is something that we can actually afford to do.
We'll see.
Because it's better to have.
See, guys. I'm out of time. We had a lot to talk about. I'm out of time. We'll see you soon. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. And coming up on Tuesday, catch our complete interview with Indiana's new Secretary of Commerce. It's on a special episode of the All Indiana Politics podcast on wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.